One footballer got locked behind bars for forging fake IDs, another received a life sentence for assault, and trust me, you don't want to miss what this footballer did at the end. These are footballers who are currently rotting in jail. And first up is the Brazilian who came into the limelight as an 18-year-old star boy out of Santos, blessed with so much footballing talent that he was nicknamed the New Pele. Robinho was worshipped every time he stepped on the pitch, but behind the scenes, Robinho was a hardened offender. In 2009, during his time in Manchester City, he was detained by the British police for alleged conduct on a young woman. Even though all the charges were dropped, Robinho didn't learn from his actions. 4 years later, Robinho was playing for AC Milan in the Serie A, recklessly breaking and snatching ankles as usual. This time, he and 5 other guys a young 23-year-old Albanian woman in an Italian nightclub. Evidence came in the form of audio clips and texts that all pointed to one thing: Robinho was clearly guilty. Amidst investigations, the Brazilian forward denied it, found his way out of Italy, and returned home to Brazil while the case was swept under the rug. It was in November 2017 that an Italian court sentenced Robinho to 9 years in prison after he and 5 other males were convicted of assault. Fortunately, Brazil's law prevented its citizens from being extradited to a foreign country, meaning Robinho couldn't be arrested within its borders. However, the Italian government pulled a reverse card on Robinho, ordering him to serve his sentence in a Brazilian prison. In March 2024, Brazil's Supreme Court accepted the Italian court's ruling, seized Robinho's passport, and arrested him in his home city of Santos. It was consensual. I never denied it. I could have denied it because my DNA wasn't there, but I'm not a liar. The same people who do nothing about racism are the ones who condemned me, Robinho protested. Santos, which was once his home and safe place, turned into a prison house as Robinho was moved to a Santos prison for celebrity convicts and murderers. Brazilians have been praised for their immaculate flair for football, but not so much for their discipline, just like their renowned legend Dani Alves. Back in December 2022, Alves was in a local nightclub in Barcelona partying and got so intoxicated that he ended up assaulting a 23-year-old woman in the bathroom. The 41-year-old footballer defiled her pride and privacy, and he left her with multiple scars and a knee injury that she reported to the hospital and the police officers. Alves was then summoned to Spain's Court of Justice in 2023. After initially stating that he had never met the lady before, his testimony quickly changed to he was under the influence of alcohol before claiming it was a consensual act between both parties. However, all evidence and witness testimonies pointed to Alves as guilty. His initial 12-year prison sentence was changed to a 4.5-year sentence that would see him celebrate his 45th birthday behind bars. The Brazilian footballer was ordered to pay 150,000 euros in damages to the victim. After spending almost 14 months in prison, Dani Alves' appeal for bail was finally accepted, and he was released in March 2024 after paying 1 million euros to the court. With all his passports seized by the government, Alves is currently in Spain waiting for the official ruling from the judge in near time. This case didn't just lose Alves' pride, he was stripped of his sponsorship deals and professional contract with his former Mexican team UNAM, leaving him with absolutely nothing. Going from hero to zero in just a matter of months is absolutely insane. That reminds me of when another Brazilian legend spent months in jail for forging fake passports. During his playing days, Ronaldinho was arguably one of football's greatest artists. The tricks he pulled with the ball at his feet are straight out of a magician's playbook. But after hanging his boots, the Brazilian superstar took his skills off the streets and started making fake traveling passports. After accumulating a long list of debts, the Brazilian authorities seized his passport to keep him in their country until he settled the government. Unfortunately, the Brazilian legend had to be in Paraguay for a promotional tour that year. Ronaldinho and his brother Roberto coined fake passports to help him get into Paraguay unnoticed. However, the plan eventually failed as Ronaldinho and his brother were sent behind bars for a month. It was inside this Paraguayan jail he celebrated his 40th birthday with his fellow inmates. After paying $1.6 million for bail, Ronaldinho and his brother were released and placed under house arrest until their trial date. They both pleaded guilty to the offense, and their initial 5-year jail sentence was changed to a $200,000 fine and a slap on the wrist. Next, we have the tale of a football player whose crimes banned him from an entire country. Ruben Semedo, a former Portuguese international renowned for his Villarreal run, had a history of off-field controversies. First up was when he was arrested in Spain for allegedly tying up and torturing a man in his house, then burglaring the victim's home in 2018. Semedo spent 2 years of the 15-year sentence before pleading guilty to kidnap, robbery, and possession of illegal firearms. The judge's ruling was a €46,000 fine, and Ruben Semedo was banned from stepping foot on Spain's soil for the next 8 years. 3 years after his release, Semedo found himself on Greece's most wanted list. This time, the 30-year-old footballer allegedly gang a 17-year-old girl at a local nightclub. An offense bound to land him in prison for at least 5 years ended in a €10,000 fine and a slap on the wrist. Wow, that's one lucky man right there. Mason Greenwood's crime, on the other hand, turned him into a worldwide enemy. For this incident, Mason was arguably one of the best youngsters in the world of football. Greenwood was a menace on the field, racking up incredible goal contributions for club and country. But under the sheet, he was secretly abusing his girlfriend. The news broke out in early 2022 when his girlfriend posted images, videos, and audio recordings on social media exposing Greenwood's horrendous acts.
Use your fucking legs up!
No, I don't want to have sex.
I don't give a fuck what you want, you shit.
From attempts of domestic abuse, murder threats, and coercion, Greenwood was en route to a failed footballing career and the rest of his life behind bars. Mason was suspended indefinitely by Manchester United, and he saw all his sponsorships with Nike and EA Sports terminated. After spending the first 3 weeks of the investigation behind bars, Mason was finally released on bail as the case lingered for over a year. In just a few months, Greenwood went from Manchester United's next biggest youngster to the world's most hated man. What a twist! Surprisingly, the case was over after key witnesses withdrew their involvement and new material came to light. Considering Mason's girlfriend was expecting a child with the Englishman, it was no surprise that the evidence suddenly got shredded into pieces. However, Greenwood was extradited from Manchester United and left to play on loan in La Liga with Getafe, as his exit from Manchester is a near sight. But that still wasn't as brutal as the football player who murdered his wife in cold blood. In 2010, Bruno Fernandes de Souza started playing for Flamengo in Brazil's top division. During a party gathering, the goalkeeper mistakenly impregnated one of his extramarital girlfriends. Bruno even threatened her to get an abortion and tried to force her to take an illegal abortion drug. The victim refused and gave birth to a baby boy, but Bruno denied being his father. She had to report Bruno to the police after failing to pay child support funds for their son. Unfortunately, on June 4, 2010, Eliza was declared missing for months with no trace left behind. After a thorough investigation, Bruno admitted that he had planned the murder of Eliza and he had fed her body to his pet Rottweilers. Bruno was immediately arrested and sentenced to 22 years behind bars. It was in 2019 Fernandes was released from prison to serve in a semi-open program for the rest of his sentence, meaning he worked and trained during the day and was under house arrest at night. That will go down as one of the ugliest incidents in football history.